Having a secret crush is like harboring a thrilling yet terrifying secret. It's a feeling that can consume your thoughts, making every moment feel like a scene from a romantic movie. It's a roller coaster of emotions, a mix of excitement and anxiety that keeps you on the edge of your seat, wondering what might happen next. He was the star quarterback with a dazzling smile and a laugh that could melt glaciers. His presence was magnetic, drawing everyone in like moths to a flame. I, on the other hand, was a bookworm, content in the shadows of the library. My world was filled with stories and characters, a safe haven from the chaos of high school life. My crush on him felt like a fragile butterfly, fluttering in my chest, threatening to escape with every glance in his direction. It was a secret I cherished yet feared. I kept my feelings hidden, tucked away in the deepest corner of my heart, afraid of what might happen if they ever saw the light of day. The thought of exposure was both thrilling and terrifying. He was everything I wasn't, outgoing, popular, and the center of attention wherever he went. His life seemed like a whirlwind of excitement and adventure. I admired him from afar, content to observe him from the sidelines. It was safer that way, or so I told myself. Every stolen glance, every accidental brush in the hallway sent shivers down my spine. It was as if the universe was conspiring to bring us together, yet keeping us apart. The thought of actually confessing my feelings was both exhilarating and terrifying. It was a leap into the unknown, a risk I wasn't sure I was ready to take. What if he rejected me? The fear of rejection loomed large, a shadow that darkened my every thought. What if he laughed in my face? The humiliation would be unbearable, a nightmare I couldn't wake from. The fear of rejection was a heavy weight, holding me back from taking the leap. It was a burden I carried alone, a secret I couldn't share. I spent countless hours daydreaming about him, imagining scenarios where we would magically fall in love. In my mind, we were perfect together, a match made in heaven. In my fantasies, we were the perfect couple, sharing inside jokes and stolen kisses under the bleachers. It was a world where everything was possible, where love conquered all. Reality, however, was a different story. It was a world where fear and doubt reigned supreme, keeping me from taking the plunge. I was too shy, too awkward to ever approach him. My insecurities held me back, whispering that I wasn't good enough. I convinced myself that he was out of my league, that someone like him would never be interested in someone like me. It was a comforting lie, a shield against disappointment. The thought of confessing my feelings seemed like a risky gamble, one I wasn't sure I was ready to take. It was a decision that could change everything for better or worse. My friends encouraged me to tell him how I felt, but the fear of rejection was too strong. They believed in me, but I couldn't find the courage to believe in myself. They told me he was a nice guy, that he wouldn't be mean, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I would be humiliated. The fear of being exposed was too great. What if he told everyone? The thought of my secret becoming public knowledge was terrifying. What if he made fun of me? The fear of ridicule was paralyzing, a barrier I couldn't overcome. The fear was paralyzing, keeping me trapped in a cycle of silent longing. It was a prison of my own making, one I couldn't escape. The days leading up to the confession were a blur of nervous energy and anticipation, a whirlwind of emotions that seemed to consume every waking moment. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, and I could barely focus on anything else. My mind was a constant loop of what-ifs and maybes. Every thought revolved around him. Every conversation seemed to lead back to him. It was as if he had become the center of my universe. My stomach was in knots and my palms were constantly sweaty. It was a physical manifestation of the turmoil inside me. I felt like I was on a roller coaster, climbing slowly to the peak, knowing the drop was inevitable. The anticipation was both thrilling and terrifying. I planned out every detail, from what I would wear to what I would say. I wanted everything to be perfect, as if perfection could guarantee success. I rehearsed my confession countless times in front of the mirror, trying to sound confident and casual. Each rehearsal was a step closer to the real thing. I wanted to come across as cool and collected, not desperate and clingy. It was important to me to maintain a sense of dignity. I picked out my favorite outfit, the one that made me feel the most confident, and I spent hours perfecting my hair and makeup. It was a ritual of preparation and self-assurance. I wanted to look my best, even if it was just for a few fleeting moments. Those moments could change everything. The day of the confession arrived, and I felt a mixture of excitement and dread. It was a pivotal moment, one that could alter the course of my life. I couldn't believe I was actually going to do it. The reality of the situation was both exhilarating and daunting. I had butterflies in my stomach, and my heart was pounding in my chest. It was as if my body was preparing for a monumental event. I took deep breaths trying to calm my nerves, but it was no use. The anxiety was a constant companion, whispering doubts in my ear. I felt like I was about to jump off a cliff, not knowing what awaited me at the bottom. The unknown was both a promise and a threat. The anticipation was almost unbearable. It was a tension that stretched every second into an eternity. I met my friends before school, and they could tell I was nervous. Their presence was a comforting reminder that I wasn't alone. They offered words of encouragement and support, reminding me that everything would be okay. Their faith in me was a balm to my frayed nerves. Their reassurance helped, but I still felt a knot of anxiety in my stomach. It was a stubborn fear, refusing to be completely dispelled. I knew they were right, that I had nothing to lose, but the fear of rejection was still there, lurking in the back of my mind. It was a shadow that followed me, whispering doubts and fears. Finding the perfect moment to confess my feelings was like searching for a needle in a haystack. It felt nearly impossible, as if the universe was conspiring against me, throwing obstacles in my path at every turn. I wanted to find a time when we were alone, without any distractions or interruptions. A moment that was just ours, where the world would fade away, leaving only the two of us. I considered confessing during lunch, but the cafeteria was always crowded and noisy. The constant chatter and clatter made it impossible to have a meaningful conversation. I thought about approaching him after school, but he always had football practice. The field was his domain, a place where he was focused and unreachable. I needed a quiet, private moment where I could express my feelings without fear of being overheard. A space where my words could be heard clearly, without the noise of the outside world. I decided to confess my feelings after school near the old oak tree behind the library. It was a place that held memories, a spot that felt like it belonged to us. It was a secluded spot, away from the hustle and bustle of the school, a sanctuary where time seemed to slow down, offering a moment of peace. The oak tree was our secret spot, a place where we sometimes studied together or just hung out and talked. It was a refuge from the chaos, a place where we could be ourselves. It was a peaceful, serene place, perfect for a heartfelt confession. The gentle rustle of leaves and the soft chirping of birds created a soothing backdrop. I hoped the tranquil setting would help calm my nerves and create a more intimate atmosphere. I wanted the moment to be special, something we would both remember. I waited anxiously for him by the oak tree, my heart pounding in my chest. Each passing second felt like an eternity, filled with anticipation and fear. The minutes ticked by slowly, and I started to doubt myself. What if I had misjudged the situation? What if he didn't feel the same way? What if he didn't show up? The thought gnawed at me, making my heart sink with each passing moment. What if he had already left? The fear of being stood up was overwhelming, casting a shadow over my hopes. I paced back and forth, fidgeting with my hands, trying to distract myself from the growing anxiety. My mind raced with possibilities, each one more daunting than the last. I checked my phone repeatedly, even though I knew he wouldn't text me. The waiting was agonizing, each second stretching into an eternity. Finally, I saw him walking towards me, his football gear slung over his shoulder. Relief flooded through me, washing away the doubts and fears. My heart skipped a beat, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. He was here, and that was all that mattered. He was here. This was it. The moment I had been waiting for, the moment that could change everything. The moment I had been dreading and anticipating for weeks had finally arrived. It was time to lay my heart bare, to take a leap of faith. I took a deep breath, trying to compose myself, and plastered a smile on my face. This was my chance, and I was ready to seize it. Section 4. The confession itself. As he approached, I felt my carefully rehearsed words evaporate from my mind. My palms were sweaty, my knees were weak, and my voice trembled slightly as I spoke. "Hey," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. He smiled back, and for a moment I forgot everything I had planned to say. His smile was so warm and genuine it made my heart flutter. "Hey," he replied, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "What's up?" I took another deep breath, trying to gather my courage. I need to tell you something," I stammered, my cheeks flushing with color. I avoided his gaze, focusing on the ground, afraid to meet his eyes. I knew I couldn't back down now. I had to say it, no matter how difficult it was. "Okay," he said patiently, encouraging me to continue. "I have a crush on you," I blurted out, the words tumbling out in a rush. I finally looked up at him, my heart pounding in my chest. I braced myself for his reaction, ready for rejection, ready for laughter, ready for anything. The silence that followed felt like an eternity. "I've liked you for a really long time," I added, my voice barely audible. I felt exposed and vulnerable, like I had just stripped bare in front of him. I waited for his response, my heart pounding in my chest. The air was thick with anticipation, and I could barely breathe. I had finally said it, and now, all I could do was wait. His initial reaction was a mixture of surprise and confusion. His eyebrows furrowed slightly, and his eyes widened in disbelief. He opened his mouth to speak, then closed it again, as if unsure of what to say. He looked at me intently, searching my face for any sign of hesitation or doubt. I held his gaze, my heart pounding in my chest, waiting for him to break the silence. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other, his hands fidgeting nervously. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I had often admired from afar. He seemed to be processing the information, trying to make sense of what I had just told him. The silence stretched on, and I started to feel uncomfortable. I wondered if I had made a mistake, if I should have just kept my feelings to myself. After what felt like an eternity, he finally spoke. "Wow," he said softly, his voice laced with surprise. I didn't expect that." He looked down at the ground, avoiding my gaze. I could see a faint blush creeping up his neck, and I realized he was just as nervous as I was. It was a small comfort, knowing that I wasn't the only one feeling overwhelmed by the situation. He cleared his throat and looked back up at me. I like you too," he stammered, his cheeks flushing a deeper shade of red. My heart soared at his words, and a wave of relief washed over me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He liked me too. It was like a dream come true.